So, recently, Disney just released the animated film Predator Killer of Killers on Disney Plus and Hulu. And on that exact same day, they just so happened to release Season 5 of Phineas and Ferb, which has been 10 years in the making. These are two animated projects I've actually really been looking forward to this year, both from Disney, funny enough, since I'm both a big fan of the Predator franchise, but also Phineas and Ferb. Obviously, these are two very different animated projects, but since they came out on the same day and are both on Disney Plus for you to watch right now, I figured I may as well review them in one video. Both of these projects definitely surprised me in a way I really didn't expect, especially for two animated projects that were essentially straight to streaming. So without further ado, let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of Phineas and Ferb Season 5 and also Predator Killer of Killers. Let's start with Predator Killer of Killers, since I think this is actually a really unique project and I don't think enough people are talking about it overall. Technically, this project was announced all the way back in 2024 even, when Dan Trachtenberg, who had directed Prey previously for Disney and Hulu, announced that he was working on two new Predator films. One of which being Predator Badlands, which is meant to come out in November 7th, which I am very excited for after seeing this movie, and also the other being an unnamed mystery project. A lot of fans speculated what this mystery project would be until April of this year, when the trailer for Predator Killer of Killers was officially dropped. This is a feature-length, fully animated Predator anthology film that actually focuses on three different Predator killers throughout all of history. When I saw the trailer for this initially, I was obviously very excited, being a fan of both animation and also the Predator franchise. However, after hearing this is gonna be an anthology film with three separate stories, I did end up getting kinda skeptical since I wasn't really sure how this would work. Pretty much every Predator movie, whether it's good or bad, does just function as one complete story. So doing three separate stories in one movie that didn't really connect to each other didn't seem like a very good idea in my opinion. Like, I don't know how the Fantasia of Predator films would work. But fortunately, this film did end up exceeding my expectations, which we'll get into here. As a result of having three separate stories, there are three distinct protagonists that this film follows. The first of which is Ursa, a Viking warrior mom. She, her son Anders, who she's encouraging to become a true warrior, and the rest of their tribe are on a mission to destroy the person that ended up killing Ursa's father back in the day. This person's name is Zoran, and he happens to be the leader of a rival Viking tribe. But unbeknownst to Ursa and crew, there just so happens to be a predator who's watching him this whole time and observing how things go down. Whoa. Honestly, this is something I really like about both this film and Prey, since Dan Trachtenberg seems to really dive into the Predator's code of honor. Since the Yautja aliens actually have a really interesting culture in my opinion, I think it really makes them super fascinating. For me, that's honestly a big part of the appeal with this franchise, is the mysteriousness surrounding the Predators and trying to decipher what their code of honor really is. A big part of their code is the fact that they won't attack anyone that they deem as unworthy prey or someone who is defenseless or naked or trapped. So, as a result, when this predator observes Ursa and her tribe moving in on these Vikings and pretty much obliterating them completely, like it's not even a contest here, he immediately recognizes Ursa, her son, and everybody else in the tribe as the superior prey and the thing he should be hunting. Unfortunately for both Ursa and her clan, this means she's now the prime target in the predator's sights, and this results in her clan being totally annihilated. Fortunately, due to some quick thinking, Ursa is able to defeat the predator by trapping him under a sea of ice, but unfortunately this also comes at a cost, since by the time she does this, her son Anders has already died. I think this could be seen as a bit of an anti-war commentary moment here, since in the moment that Ursa ends up defeating the predator, the war paint initially put on her by her father is actually washed off. I think this is symbolic of her both A, winning the fight against her rival and also the predator, but also the fact she doesn't really have anything left to fight for now since her son is dead. And it's definitely a very heavy emotional moment. Honestly, I was surprised at how many genuinely powerful emotional moments were in this film overall. When I think of the Predator franchise, I tend to think of a more action thriller type thing overall, since I wouldn't really consider Predator a horror franchise as much as I do just an action adventure type franchise. Alien is 100% a horror franchise, since it focuses on a lot of long, tense moments where you're not sure whether the alien is going to show up or not, whereas Predator is more focused on just action and spectacle, which is totally fine. I absolutely love both the Alien and Predator franchises, albeit for different reasons. but I wasn't expecting this one to have a lot of emotion behind it. It's very interesting, and it shows that Dan Trachtenberg, I think, is really the right person to be handling the Predator franchise now, since he's really reinventing it and breathing new life into it. The next story we see after this is actually in feudal Japan between two samurai brothers. Well, technically one is a ninja, the other is a samurai. Ninja were actually seen as dishonorable in Japanese history as opposed to samurai, which had a very strict code of honor they would abide by, so this is interesting, especially with the Predator observing here and trying to figure out who is the better warrior. Despite the ninja not really having a distinct code of honor that he sticks to, he ends up being the better warrior in the Predator's eyes, which I find kind of funny. Hypocrite much, Predator? But thankfully, it doesn't matter because the Predator tries to kill him, but unfortunately he doesn't succeed because it turns out the samurai brother didn't die, so that he and the ninja brother team up together to kill the Predator. I admittedly do like a lot of feudal Japan set stuff. I love a lot of samurai flicks, especially stuff by Akira Kurosawa, so this is really cool to see. I just really like the idea of the Predator visiting different eras throughout history and having to fight different people from those eras. Like, it's such a cool concept. Prey was technically the first to introduce this concept since it was set in the 1700s and focused on a Native American tribe, so it's really cool to see it expanded upon here in this film. After the feudal Japan one, we actually get to see a World War II pilot, which, out of the three, this was my absolute favorite to see. I'm admittedly a big sucker for diesel punk stuff set during World War I or World War II, such as Atlantis Lost Empire or Bioshock or Crimson Sky, so this was definitely up my alley. The main character we get to see here was Torres, who was definitely my favorite out of the three as well, since I connected to him a lot, personally. I really liked his ambition of just wanting to prove himself to be a worthy pilot and someone who could hold his own in an aerial dogfight, even when fighting an alien predator. I also think the way he beats the Predator is really smart here, since he recognizes that they can only see heat signatures, especially when they're in their plane like that. So he has his plane go straight up until his engine ends up getting frozen over so he can fly around the Predator ship undetected. I really like that, and that is what gives him the tactical advantage to actually take down this Predator. After managing to take it down, he ends up going back to his hangar to work on his plane, but whoa, looks like the Predators found out he killed one of their own because now they're here to abduct him. But I think this brings up a very important question. How exactly did the Predators know where to find Torres? It looks like they found his exact address somehow. Perhaps his information was leaked on computers that totally existed in the 1940s. I guess if he wanted his information to be safer, he should have used Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Did you know that in 2024 alone, there were over 270 million data breaches? Wow, that's even more bodies than the Predators pile up in a week. On average, it takes a bank 277 days to even uncover a data breach. Your bank could be breached right now, it could be months away from finding out. Fortunately, that's where Aura, today's sponsor, comes in. Aura is the best research for cracking down on digital crime and data breaches. They alert me if they find my phone number, email, or social security number on the dark web. If your data is compromised, they'll let you know quickly and efficiently. They provide a lot of easy to access ways to track where your personal information currently stands and who might have outside access to it. It's a great way to keep potential data predators at bay. You can use this special deal at aura.com/orderlynoah to try 14 days for free. That's enough time for Aura to figure out if anyone has mined your data. Once again, that's aura.com/orderlynoah. Protect your data with the best resources around at Aura. And now, back to the review. And this is actually the part of the movie that I really got invested, and I realized why this was an anthology to begin with. After being abducted, Torres actually gets cryogenically frozen and ends up at some point in the future, although it's uncertain when this is. However, as it turns out, both Ursa and the samurai from the previous stories were also abducted by this exact Predator ship, and they're on the same ship as Torres. They were also cryogenically frozen, and now all three of them have been awakened at the same time. It was at this point that it really clicked for me as to why this is an anthology film. Honestly, it could have just been three separate stories and it would have been great as is, because I think these all three are really strong stories on their own. But throwing this twist in and allowing all these protagonists to meet each other and having their stories all interconnect really makes this all the better. I really didn't see this coming at all. I'm really happy about this twist. All three of them are thrown into a giant gladiator pit where they're told they'll have to kill each other, and then the winner will have to go kill the Predator leader. Thankfully though, they're smarter than this and they find a way off the planet, except for Ursa apparently, because she just stayed behind because I Don't know why. I guess she wanted to be a mom. Bye kids, have a great time at college. I'm gonna stay behind on this alien predator planet and hopefully not die. And that's it. Honestly, this is a pretty short movie, surprisingly, but it's really good and it packs in so much in such a small amount of time. Dan Trachtenberg is proving himself very quickly, in my opinion, to have a really clear, distinct vision of where to take the Predator franchise next for Disney. Both this and Prey have really breathed life into the franchise, which was much needed after The Predator, given that was a terrible movie. And also it's some pretty awful autism representation, as y'all might recall. But the best part about this is that during the credits, they end up revealing that not only were these three cryogenically frozen, but also Naru from Prey is here too. That's right, the Predators have also taken the star of Prey and frozen her as well, as revealed in the final shot. This is such a cool reveal, and I'm really excited to see where they go forward with this. It also does raise the question of whether the Predators have every single person that's won a fight against a Predator cryogenically frozen here. Like, does that mean the dad from the 2018 Predator movie is here? Or maybe even Arnold Schwarzenegger from the first film? I will say this reveal is a bit of a double-edged sword, since it could very easily just be a way to nostalgia bait people into bringing back past stars from previous Predator films, but I guess we'll see. If it's handled relatively well, I probably won't have a problem with it. Like, the movie Deadpool and Wolverine was basically just bringing back all past Fox stars from different Marvel movies, and I enjoy that fine, although that's a very different kind of film, admittedly, than Predator. I guess it remains to be seen what'll actually come of this, but one thing's for sure now, I'm really looking forward to Predator Badlands after seeing this. Expect a review of that when that comes out as well. Now that I've explained my thoughts on Predator Killer of Killers, it's time to look at Season 5 of Phineas and Ferb, which, like I said, came out the same day as Predator Killer of Killers, ironically enough. Phineas and Ferb is honestly one of my favorite cartoons ever, since I think it's genuinely one of the best written cartoon shows out there. This show managed to maintain the same episode structure for every episode and always make it entertaining and funny. It still kind of amazes me to this day what Dan Povenmire and Jeff Marsh were able to pull off with this show, and I think in a lot of ways, it's really timeless. So admittedly, when I heard it was gonna get a 5th season after 10 years of being off the air, I was a little concerned. Obviously, the main reason this is happening at all is very clear: Disney wants money. Even 10 years after its initial run ended, Phineas and Ferb is still one of the top streamed shows of all time on Disney+, which is kind of insane. And overall, I can't really say the entirety of Phineas and Ferb really has a single episode I would consider truly bad. Like, it's a very solid show all throughout. But also the way it's set up, I really kind of questioned whether this would actually feel fresh or not. Even though Dan and Jeff were always able to make each episode feel entertaining despite having the same formula, I really question how long you can do that for. Like, the original series of Phineas and Ferb is over 100 episodes. How are you going to do 40 more episodes and make them all seem fresh and distinct and give people a reason to watch them? Fortunately, all the first 10 episodes of this batch are actually now available on Disney+. So I went ahead and binged them all on Disney+, which, funny enough, was the same day that I got my Switch 2. Please play Bravely Default Remastered, it's so good. And now I've come to a definitive conclusion of which of these batches of episodes are actually worth your time and which you might want to skip. There definitely are some episodes here that thankfully do shake up the formula a little bit, just enough to make it more interesting, and some that are kind of more meh in my opinion. The first one that we have here is Summer Blockbuster / Cloudy with a Chance of Mom, which is technically the premiere episode. This one already starts off pretty great, with Phineas and Ferb being shown on the last day of school, recapping all the adventures they had last summer. And apparently they spent the entire school year recapping this to their class, which is great. Now we don't need to know about what they're doing at school at all. They end up putting together a big summer block party, while Perry and Doofenshmirtz are back at it again, with Doofenshmirtz now making a vaporizer-inator, which is meant to vaporize anything that annoys him, including the Song of the Summer, apparently. I will say, apart from the opening gag, this one did bore me a little bit at first, given it seemed like it was just going to be kind of formulaic and not really add too much to it, until the vaporizer-inator actually hits Phineas and Ferb's mom. That I did not see coming, and I'm kind of glad they chose to do this, since it does show that this season will be able to throw in some surprises here and there. As a result of getting vaporized, their mom becomes a cloud, and then becomes a huge thunderstorm that almost destroys the entire tri-state area. But thankfully, both Phineas and Ferb, and actually surprisingly mostly Candace in this situation are able to turn their mom back to normal. I really like the moment where Candace calls out to her mom and reminds her that she wanted to spend the first day of summer as a family together, and that's what's ultimately able to bring her back. Kind of a surprisingly emotional touch, which I didn't really expect there. Episode 2 is the one where the boys build a submarine sandwich, and also Candace has to get her driver's license. I didn't really care for this one, honestly. This one definitely has some good gags, of course, but to be honest, any episode of Phineas and Ferb always has good gags, no matter what. The one after this was the one where the boys end up creating an endless luge track, which I also found kinda meh as well, but it's the episode that comes after this that I actually really liked, called Deconstructing Doof. This one I thought really stood out and was super interesting. The idea here is that Candace and Dr. Doofenshmirtz actually share the same therapist, and he ends up connecting their stories and realizing about the existence of Agent P and also the existence of Auka. And he figures out that Doofenshmirtz's innators are always the thing that do away with the boys' inventions before Candace can bust them. But just as he's gathered enough proof to talk about this before a live audience, Agent P ends up coming in, destroying all of it, and inevitably, the therapist ends up feeling a lot like Candace at the end of every episode, which is kind of funny. I actually really like this one. This is definitely one of the best ones from the season. The next one was Tropy McTruthface and Biblioblast, which was basically the boys building both a zoetrope and a giant bookcase. The bookcase one I didn't really care for, but the zoetrope one was pretty funny, I felt like. This one is less about Phineas and Ferb themselves and more about the zoetrope they build and how it takes on a life of its own, even becoming married to a Ferris wheel at the end of the episode, which is as crazy and wild as it sounds. Definitely recommend at least the first half of this episode. The next one was A Chip to the Vet and More Than an Intern. I actually liked both halves of this episode, surprisingly. This one was a lot more solid in my opinion on both ends. The first half is basically Doofenshmirtz pretending to be a veterinarian so he can try and chip Agent P and figure out where he is at all times, which has a lot of pretty great gags in my opinion and is a nice step away from the boys always building something in the backyard, since instead they have to build something at a vet clinic here to help groom all the pets before they get checked up on. The other half of this episode is basically focused on Carl and showing all the part-time jobs he has since he's an unpaid intern for Auka. This one was really great too, and it's just kind of nice to get a Carl-centric episode overall. I don't think there's enough of those. It was also really nice to see him stand up to Major Monogram and explain that he needs 3 part-time jobs just to pay rent since Monogram isn't paying him at all. And this ends up being a turning point for Monogram since he realizes that Carl does do a lot for Auka and he should really be respected more. Just really good stuff. I think in a similar vein, the episode after this is also very solid on both ends, with the first half being called The Aurora Borealis and the second half being called Lord of the Firesides. The first half follows the boys on a cruise ship with their family to go see the Aurora Borealis, and also Vanessa happens to be on this ship too with Dr. Doofenshmirtz. And she also runs into Major Monogram's son, who she had a relationship with in a previous season, so it was really nice to see them get back together too. Also, Doofenshmirtz and Perry get shrunk in this episode, so they have to figure out how to work together to get back to normal size, which is pretty fun. The latter half of this episode is absolutely insane, but I really love it, with the Fireside Girls going nuts and not having their nice, cute demeanor anymore. They end up pulling an all-out war against each other and having so many disagreements over really menial things, like whether they should have red velvet cupcakes or vanilla. It quickly becomes utter chaos, and it's really funny. I definitely recommend this episode. The one after this is called The Candace Suit in Agent T13, which is also a very solid episode. It also has some great callbacks too. The first has Candace going to Buford to make a bunch of life-size suits of her, as crazy as that sounds, since in a previous episode, Buford for some reason had a life-size mold of her, which don't question that. Candace figures that if she can get her mom to dress up in the life-size suit of her, the mysterious force that always takes away the boys' inventions won't detect that it's her mom, and the inventions will hopefully stay put. Second episode is actually a callback to an earlier episode where Stacy figured out Agent P's secret identity, and this was kept a mutual secret between her and him. After Perry gets captured by Doofenshmirtz and also Dr. Diminutive though, it's up to Stacy to save him, which is really wholesome and just really nice. I kinda hope we get future episodes with Stacy now being an official agent in the future. The episode after this is a bit more mixed for me though, because while I did like the Haberdasher one, I think it was kind of cool getting insight into how all the agents of Auka get their hats, and it was pretty silly overall seeing a doof as a giant moth trying to eat all the hats. I didn't think the episode after this was really that interesting at all. It was just kind of the boys making a giant movie set, and that's literally it. Whoopee. Interestingly enough, and I might honestly get some flack for this one, I do have some thoughts on the one after this too, The Chronicles of Meep, Meet Me in St. Louis. As a lot of you probably know, in the original seasons of Phineas and Ferb, there were 2 different episodes that focused on the alien Meep. The first one was just called The Chronicles of Meep, and honestly is one of the best episodes of Phineas and Ferb in my opinion. It's fantastic. And honestly, the sequel is just as good in my opinion, which is called Meepless in Seattle. I think these two episodes in particular really represent Phineas and Ferb at their most zaniest and out there, and just really funniest overall. They're absolutely great. At the end of Meepless in Seattle though, there was actually a tease for a potential third episode featuring Meep. This one was called Meep Me in St. Louis and featured a lot of even more crazy scenes in the teaser for it. The creators have actually gone on record saying they didn't ever plan to make this episode at all, which is why all these scenes are just really out there overall. But with the 5th season finally here after 10 years, they decided to finally make good on this and finally make Meep Me in Seattle. The episode is set up this way too, since they show the exact same 12 shots that they showed in the teaser at the end of Meepless in Seattle. And they also would talk about how they found a way to put each of these 12 shots in the episode. And this might sound kind of weird, but this is actually what kills the episode for me. I think if this episode had just been played straight and they didn't overindulge on including all these 12 shots in the episode, because they literally highlight it whenever it happens. There's a counter that appears on the screen, which is really distracting and very annoying. I think I would have liked this one a lot better, but it just feels really overindulgent with how it is right now. And honestly, overall, I just find it a lot weaker than the other two Meep episodes. Maybe that's just me though. Let me know down below if you have different thoughts on this one, because I'm sure this will be a pretty divisive take given how beloved Meep is. The last episode that's currently available on Disney Plus is No Slumber Party and the Ballad of Bubba Doof. I actually like this one for the most part. It starts out with Phineas and Ferb and crew, and also Vanessa, Stacy, and Candace hosting separate sleepovers. And also at the same time, Dr. Doofenshmirtz is trying to catch the final episode of Acquaintances, which is very obviously a parody of Friends, so he can spoil it to everyone in his building and become the most evil person there. This one's honestly pretty great. I enjoy it. It's kinda nice to see Vanessa, Candace, and Stacy all doing something together, since, at least to my knowledge, I don't think that's ever been in an episode before. The other half of this episode is about Phineas and Ferb building a forced perspective western town, which I really liked this one. The idea here is that Belgie doesn't care for western films, so Phineas and Ferb decide to try and change his perspective on westerns by literally building a forced perspective western town. The town is essentially full of optical illusions that are meant to fool the viewer into what's in the foreground and what's in the background, which is pretty great, and they have a lot of great gags with this. I like this one, it's pretty solid. If I had to rank the current 10 episodes that are on Disney Plus from worst to best, I would say Submarine Sandwich, then Meet Me in St. Louis, then the Haberdasher / Out of Character, then Tropey McTropeface, then the Candace Suit, then Aurora Borealis, then Slumber Party, then Summer Blockbuster, then Deconstructing Doof, and then A Trip to the Vet / More Than an Intern. Overall, while this season definitely has some more mixed episodes for me, I think it's actually really solid overall. And I am genuinely surprised at how many of these episodes do actually shake up the formula. There was a lot more interesting and genuinely engaging concepts here than I expected, and I'm actually really interested to see what they do next. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see me review the next 10 episodes they put on Disney Plus or whatever. But all in all, I really enjoyed both Predator Killer of Killers and also Phineas and Ferb Season 5. I'm very excited for Predator Badlands, and I'm very excited to see the rest of Season 5 for Phineas and Ferb. The next videos I have in the works are the discussion on the James Bond game that's currently being made, apparently being considered woke for some reason, so there'll be a video on that this week. Cause, oh boy, of course the anti-woke crowd of all people would get upset over James Bond of all things. In addition to that, I'll also be reviewing the How to Train Your Dragon remake this week, so stay tuned for that. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, since I put a lot of effort into these videos in general. If you like seeing film-based or animation-based topics discussed overall, then you'll probably like the other videos I have planned for the future. You can also join my Discord to suggest topics for me to cover here on YouTube, and also check out all my socials down below, like my Letterboxd, where I review movies and shows, oftentimes movies and shows I won't review here on YouTube. All links are down in the description. But regardless, thank you so much for watching this video. I've been Otterly Noah, and I'll see you on the Otter side. Bye!